Okay, let's see. We got people coming into the room fast and furious. Here we go. All right. Welcome everyone as you're coming into our webinar today on the complex application process part 2. We did notice that we have more people signed up for part 2 than for part 1. So obviously some of you didn't see the first one. So I'm going to do a little recap of that at the beginning, but let me let you guys join into the room. And we're going to get started here in just a moment. Just as a reminder for those of you who haven't maybe been on this, or a reminder for those of you who have been on our webinars, this is Zoom webinar. So a lot of us we're used to our Zoom meetings, little different. Instead of like the chat box, there's a question and answer box. So please make sure that you open up that Q&A box and you have that available to type in any kind of questions. You will see everybody's responses, like when they put in a question and we respond to it, you'll be able to see all those on that box. So I recommend opening up the Q&A box on your screen. You can say hi if you'd like. Our teams here monitoring that will help with questions as we go through it. There we go. Hey, Carlos. So, please watch for the question and answer box. Please type in questions as you have them. And you are all muted. Yes, this is being recorded, so that's good. We always record all of our webinars and place them out there for you. I am going to go ahead and get started because, let's do it. All right. This is Complex Webinar Process Part 2. We are in February 2023. Isn't that crazy? I am Allison James. I am your presenter today. Christina Godfrey is on with us and she's going to help monitor questions. Her voice sounds a little different because she's fighting quite a cold. So I'm going to do the primary presenting for today. Jordan is on to moderate, as is Chrissy. We are all account managers at One Each, and we are all here to help you guys out. So everyone on this call pretty much should have one of us as your account manager. Hopefully you know who that is. If you don't know, please ask us in the questions and we'll let you know who your lead person is. All right, here's our agenda today. We're going to recap part 1, do that pretty quickly. But today's webinar is about after the applications or the forms come in, what's the process then? The process is, let's evaluate them. And you can still do that all digitally. You can still do that all online. So first steps, we're going to have to pull reports from the completed application. And then how are we going to score them? What rating form do you want to use? So I'll show you a couple different options on the rating forms. Because we have folks who do it a multitude of ways. And then usually what you do, and then again, there's options. So I'm going to show you options. Because everyone's like, well, I want to do it this way. I want to do it that way. That's great. You can do it whatever works well for your process. I'd say most common is create a portal for your review team, allocations team, community impact team, whatever you name them, to log in and see all the applications and score all the applications online. Don't need to burn any trees. We're good. So we'll talk through that portal process, the sign-in process, the secured area process. And then as they're rating, I'm pulling those reports on the rating sheets. Like, what do I do with it now that it's come in? How do I make my decisions? And then finally, we're going to talk a bit about the quarterly report options. So now that you've kind of got this process in place and you've got organizations who have logins to your site, they can keep logging in and doing stuff, doing reports, filling out other forms, other questionnaires, other things you need them to do in a secured environment, which will let them save draft, come back, finish later, and even pre-populate with prior year's submission data. So that's all cool stuff. So let's do this. Let's recap part 1 just a bit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. What I'm going to say is, hey, go watch part 1. But here's what we did in part 1 of this series is we talked about the application process for organizations. We talked about creating an apply page where it's a landing page for the organizations to come into, how to set up the login links, create accounts, etc. That's going to actually take them to a login page when they log in that will then link out to the application. So here's the links to the application, and we have it twice because we did it in the demo. So then they're going on to the application, and then we spent a fair amount of time on building the application out, what this looks like and what this process could be. And again, there's lots of options on it. We showed having the fundraising and administrative percentage calculations in your form, as well as just collecting data. And you know, the samples I'm showing you are United Way based. It's United Way agency application, but think about it. It can be a whole multitude of different kinds of applications. It could be scholarship application forms. It can be any kind of grant application form. So there's a lot of ways that this can be used. We talked about how to set word limits, how to do all this. So if you're like at this phase of the process where you're needing to create a really robust application, at the end, I'll get you that link, but it's out on our support site under webinars. We have the recordings to all past webinars. So that's what you're going to get if you go back and watch part 1. You're going to get setting that login page, doing all this, and then working on the application. Okay, so let's see here. Go back to a pretty slideshow. All right, so now we want to talk about the applications process is done. We've collected them. Now we need to pull their reports, and we're going to want to create a rating form. How am I going to score them? What am I going to do? So a cool thing that I mentioned in the last webinar was once you have an application process and everyone has to create their login and they log into the site, what happens year 2? So instead of cloning the application and calling it 2023, we say don't put the year on it. Just use the same application. Check a box that lets it pre-populate with whichever fields you choose. And when they log in, they're going to get the same application that's going to pre-populate with their last submission data. So that being said, when I pull my report, how do I pull my report? Because it has years worth of data in it. So we do want to look by pulling by a date range so that you know how to pull specific data out by a range. So that's an option in our system. You also get to pick which fields it's going to pull in the report. And these reports will pull off as CSV files. Cool thing about that is, like, let's just say, you know, you're using Salesforce and our Blackbaud, whatever software you're using, and you want to import some of this data into a system. CSV files allow you to do that. Sometimes it's a matter of renaming the data files, the columns. So you check with your providers of your software to see how you can make that happen. So that's all cool. All right, so let's pull a report. What is next? Go back to this one. All right, so just as a reminder, in our Drupal platform, when you go under structure web forms, that's your master list of all the forms that are out there, right? You can get to this area a couple different ways, but this is where they all reside, under structure web forms. You come here, let's use my one I was using with the webinar last time. So application, here's the webinar, and you come to the far right and you'll see there are 3 results. We were just testing them out. That number is clickable. So while I could come here and do the drop down and go to results, I am more inclined to click the 3 and get straight to my results page. Just a little tip in case you haven't caught that one. So let's talk about this page. There are times when I really want to be able to look at this results and see something quickly. So this is customizable. You have a custom button right here. And it gives you all sorts of little things that you may or may not really care about. Some of them are system codes. things like submission ID and submission title and UUID, they're individual codes. And I will mention that if you ever do an import into a software is sometimes like different ID codes that are unique per submission. So while you might look at this and go, why would I care about this code? Potentially it has a value to you if you're ever trying to do an import type of situation. So I do mention that. But there are a lot of codes that I don't necessarily need, but I can rearrange this too. So for me, I'm not gonna mess around with this too much. What I care about is gonna be the PDF. I want that PDF. So I can move it all the way to the top, like where it lands when I look at my report. Why am I doing that? Because the PDF is the link to all the application data. Well, it's not moving quickly for me, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not even going to hit save on it, but I will show you. Obviously, you can mess with the order of this or what appears. It does scroll far side to side, okay? Here's those PDFs in the end. That's where they typically land. But if I wanted to move them to the front, I could, or I'm going to pull them off on a report or whatever. But these PDFs are what I need to help me with the rating process. Why? Because, okay, let's say this organization is called Good News. Good News is application came in, here's their PDF. So when I go to the rating process, I need a link to this. Something that we often might think is like, okay, I'll click this link. Let me just open it in a new tab. And here's their application. What am I going to do with this? Am I going to print it? No, I wouldn't print it. Am I going to send this link to my board and let them look at it? You can't do that exactly. The reason being is it's in a secured login environment. All the files are private. They must log in to view this. Thus, with the application process in the portal, and that's why we're doing all this. So the link is important. We do want the link, and we're going to use the link when we set up our page, but I'm just mentioning that you're not going to really send this out. It's internal for your environment, okay? So we'll go through that process right now. Let's look at downloading the report itself first. So I'm on this results tab. Here's the submissions. You can clear the submissions. We won't do that. Let's go ahead and click download. So this is going to give you a CVS file or CSV file, comma separated values, CSV file. CVS is a store. Or what you can open in Excel. So that's cool. So when I come to the download, you have a lot of options in this download area. Most of the time, honestly, I just come to the bottom and I click download. But there are times when I actually want to do some picking and choosing. So if I click column options, I can pick which fields come in that download. Maybe I don't want all the fields in the download. Maybe all I really want for this particular download, and this I actually do often because if I'm going to set up my allocations review page, the only thing I'm kind of interested in the moment is the agency name, the program name, the amount requested, and they have like 3 versions of it, but that's okay. And then the PDF of the completed form. Right now, when I do the download, that's all I care about. Okay, so you can pick and choose as you do this. And I'm going to limit it to created date. Now, in this case, these ones were just done in a demo. That's all I got. But if you are an organization that's letting them use the same form year after year after year, this is going to be important. You're going to want to be able to pick the date range of when those applications came in, right? So you could say, okay, it's just this year. So we'll go January 1 to now. And you can put the order, you can pick a couple of things. We'll just click download. So it's going to download it into your system. Again, it's a CSV file. Double click it. It's going to open up for you. And this will default out. So it's opening in Excel. and I'll have the Excel document, etc. What I might choose to do when I get this, it depends on how many you have come in. So some of you guys have lots of applications come in. You're like looking at 50, 60 applications and you're trying to organize them. It might be helpful that you pull them out into Excel or into an format. Ooh, that's tiny. And you go ahead and you sort it by oops. You sort it by no, it's empty. That's interesting. You sort it by the agency or sort it by the program. So I must have done something wrong in my poll. Oh, you know why? Because those ones that we created, I created back in November. So the date range does work, but in this case, it possibly was because I did not do that right, and I apologize to that. So anyway, you can pull the reports. I promise you it works. Let's go look back at our data. Silly me. Okay, so going back to my submissions. And sure enough, my dates on my submissions were in September of last year. That's why I didn't get anything in the report. The dates will work. It'll pull it based on that time frame, and there you go.
Hey, Allison, can I chime in?
Yeah.
We have a question. Someone is wanting to know, why would you use the created date versus the completed date?
Because it's kind of the same thing. So our system will tag it as created when it comes through. So when it's drafted, that's not its final date. But I don't know that it matters. I mean, usually you kind of know your time range anyways. I should have looked at the dates. I was thinking we did these during our demo, but apparently I'd actually filled these in back in September. Either is fine. I know that the created date sits right here, so that's the one I tend to use. So when you pull that report out, what you can do then with that data, like I said, once you have it in Excel, is you can data sort by agency. So you put them in alphabetical order, or by program and put them in alphabetical order, or in some cases, especially in the United Way world, we might do it by impact area. So let's just say your allocations processes, we review education, we review impact or income, financial stability, health, basic needs, whatever, and you want them alphabetized by group. That's when I pull those out and then sort and alphabetize by those groups. The reason I'm only really interested in the name, agency name, program name, amount, impact area, in PDF is because that's what I need to set up the review page. So let's talk about that part. Yes, that's a sample. Okay, so I've got a couple samples up from some of our customers on how they've decided to do it. And I can tell you, this is what makes my job exciting. Nobody wants to do it the same. Everyone does it a little different. So that's fun, but it's also interesting to see, what the thought process is and what they do. So here's an example of United Way of Southwest Oklahoma, real example. They have a community investment committee, and they have a page that when that committee logs in, they're going to land on this page and they're going to have links to each one of the applications. So remember I showed you that PDF link, like the Good News PDF link? So what you do is you type the name Good News and you hyperlink it to the application. Then they're able to click on it. The application opens in a side panel and they are a side tab and they can review it. So as they chose to do it, they've got them broken into panels by people. I see that sometimes. Sometimes they're broken into groups by area, and sometimes they're not broken up at all. Everyone rates everybody. So depending on how you have it set up, you can lay this portal page out however you like. Here's a link to their rating form. What they chose to do with their rating form is they've done something that they're the only ones I've had do this. So I actually have one partially filled out, so I'm going to go to that one. They have it set up that you put in the agency name and the program name and the amount they requested. So check this out. This has a really cool calculation in it. If I request $25,000, I'm going to be scored on their scoring system, different than a lot of the other ones. They have all these rating detailed sheets about rate them on a scale of 0 to 10 for program description, for effectiveness, for you read their stuff, go for it. So I give them all 8s on everything, and then they have a site visit score up to 25 points. I got 22, and that gives a calculation. And then based on that, they calculate a recommended amount for funding. So that's the only one I've had ever kind of do that. Now, that's not what they necessarily go with. They can put an overriding recommendation in it, but I just thought the detail of the math in this is very interesting. If you've ever been on one of these panels, you know, what you don't want to do is sit around in a room and say, oh, they're so nice, we should give them money. Yeah, right. There's a process to this. And I love the rating process. I love the rating process for the stance of it takes some of that heartfelt out of it, or having people in a room together kind of influencing each other. I recommend you have them rate them on their own time at home. They sit and do them, or just not having influence of each other. So then that way you can pull the reports. Okay, let's look at the next one. Here's another sample. So these guys did a little bit different. They have 3 panels. Theirs are based on impact areas, but instead of sending everyone to one portal page, they do have theirs locked down a little bit. The folks who can see the education committee can't see the income committee, and they can't see the health committee. You can only see your own. So there is a greater level of access permissions on this one. It is great. They're doing their visits right now. They're in process. They got folks filling them out. They're using one of our standard rating forms. I'll be showing that in just a second. We have this available to clone to you. They do have a few more questions than some of the others. Hyperlink to the applications. And what they did, instead of what we saw in the other sample, is you do a form for each program, one at a time. This one, they have all their programs on one. So all the education programs are on the same form. They're in the order of their site visits. And folks come here and click the link, sit and rate and score them. But something interesting about this process, so if you think about your process, whatever it might be, if you have any reason that other folks can't see the other ones, there is the ability to limit access based on a person's login. So, oh no, this isn't on. Yeah, here it is. Here is the users that are able to do this, come to this form. So we have their exact logins, and we're assigning them access to come to this form. And then health has a different set of people, and income has a different set of people. So just another way of doing it. Just wanted to like kind of throw that out at you to let you know there's just multiple ways of doing this. Have a conversation with your account manager and we can help you through that. So this is our stock rating form. We have it. We can clone it to your site for free. You just need to ask us. So our stock form is based on a weighted scale for community need at 25 points, community impact at 25 points, program eval at 20, financial management 15, organizational relationship 15, and you rate 1, 2, or 3. So they doing it, they not doing it, they kind of doing it. Pretty simple system. It can be changed, as you saw with the last one. Theirs was 1 to 5, so we can up it. The other one was 1 to 10. Whatever you decide, those numbers can vary. The weights can vary because this is actually weighted and it will percentage it out based on their answers to their questions. And of course, this text can be changed, but this is a starting point. This is a stock one that we have lots of organizations use, one just like this. And then what we'll do is go ahead and have a link to each of the applications right here. So like that good news application, I could link it right here. And then your allocations team comes and they have one form and they do each one of them. They will even be able to come down to the bottom and hit a save draft and submit it when they're ready. You just have to turn on the save draft, but save draft is definitely an option. So, so this is a stock one that we have. Okay. Any questions coming in on this?
Yep, but I'm getting them answered. I have
All right.
Holly just asked, just to clarify, that we could limit who sees the applications. So I was just
Yes,
confirming.
of course we can limit who sees the application. So yes, when you, and I was on the rating form, but on the application though, you go to that same access permissions and you set who's allowed to see them. So usually you're turning on like the allocations committee. You can't necessarily limit it. You can limit it individually by person, but all the applications are coming in on the same form. The way we're limiting it is they're only going to the review form with their application on it. So they're not really going to figure out how to get to the other ones typically. All right, let's take a look at some more stuff here. So let's talk about the secured groups. So I just gave you a few scenarios. One scenario is you go to a portal page and like all the applications are listed there and there's a link to the rating form and they do it that way. That's probably the most common. The other scenario is where we designate access based on username to certain pages with that stuff. In that case, they went to just the user login page, same page that your agencies go to when they log in with the link to the different places. So there's a few options there. In most cases, what we're going to do is we're going to do a secured group. So the one each customer, you get 3 secured areas with your site. There's a great webinar that we did a few months back about secured groups. There's another webinar you might want to go watch. We run through a secured group for a board, a secured group page for, say, staff, or a secured group page for volunteer. And that's the version I'm using now is our volunteer or our allocations committee. So if you don't see that on your site, I'll show you where it's at, content, add content, and you don't see a secured group, you can talk to your account manager or put in a ticket and request those secured group areas to be added. It comes with your site, it's free, it doesn't cost additional to have them, to have the 3. So just let us know if you need help getting that set up. Some sites have them already. Usually we get those put in place when we build your site in the first place, and sometimes it's chosen not to do at that time. So anyway, it's not uncommon to not see them yet, but you have the ability to have them. All right. So you have an allocations team and you want them to be able to access that portal page in the applications. How do you do it? This is how you do it. Secured logins or any kind of access like that to a very specific page, such as an administrator of your site who's going to edit your site, those have to be created by the one each team. Lots of permissions in our website. We have to set those permissions. We have to get that in place for you. So what we need from you to create those users, usually people will do a spreadsheet. Column 1, first name, column 2, last name, column 3, email address. Should you want, you can go column 4 and tell us what you want everyone's username to be. By default, we usually go first initial, last name, but you can tell us. Column 5, if you want, you can actually assign passwords out. It's pretty common that everyone gives them the same passwords. Not highly recommended. We can either system generate a password and give it to them, or we can send them a link for them to create a password. So this is an important statement here at the bottom. We can assign users and passwords, or you can, so you can pick them out. But we can also email them and say, hey, here's your account, click this to set up your password. But a lot of times we won't do that unless you tell us to do it, because if we send up a bunch of emails to your allocations team, you need to have let them know they're coming, or they will just bypass it, and then they're calling you, and the goal is not to have them turn around calling you and saying, hey, how do I get in? How does this work? What is this? So that's why sometimes setting up usernames and passwords for your team for them is beneficial to you, because when they call you asking you how or what it is, you know the answer. That can obviously be helpful. All right, so let's review security.
Hey, Allison.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in here too, because Renee just posted a good question in the chat that I thought would be good to review. It was just clarifying on who is filling out the allocations form. So if you have a team of 5 people on your review team, each of those 5 people are filling out their own form and not the same combined form, correct?
Correct. These are separate individualized rating forms. They're not doing it as a group. I mean, I suppose you could work it that way, but usually what we're doing is we're going to create, we're going to create individual logins per person. You want them to have their own. You don't want to like, hey, everyone log in using volunteer, and volunteer is your password, which is my sample. I'll show it to you. You want them to have their own usernames and their own passwords. You know who's rating it, and they're giving their information there. Was there more to that question, Jordan?
I think it was just clarifying that they'll each fill out their own rating form. And so you, as the person receiving them, would now have 5 rating forms for each agency. And it's not being filled out as a group. That was the
Yep, that's the plan. Because then when we'll do this in a second, you'd pull the data off, and you can see the scores, and you can average them out. You know, personally, I'm kind of a big Excel person, so I like to pull those and then work with the data. What you're getting in the system and why this ends up working with our forms is it's straight up data. It's raw data. And that means you have the ability to manipulate it. I mean, you can make pie charts with it. You can pull it and do math formulas and total things out. And so there might be a little bit of work on your end once you have the data, but you do get all that data there. So let's go look at the review page structure. But great, I love getting questions, so thank you so much. Okay, so this is my sample volunteer portal page. In fact, let's just log out for a second. We'll come back into it. I'll show you how this works. So we talked about having your different secured groups. Once you've given us their usernames and passwords, we want to get them to the page. So you'll have the page created, and we can set so that when they log in, they land automatically on that page. So it'll look like this. They'll come to your login, wherever your login is located. A lot of them are at the bottom of the site. Some of them are at the top of the site. So you just tell your allocations team member or your volunteer, go to login. They click the login, they put their username and password on, and boom, they land on the rating form. So you'll see I'm logged in as a volunteer right now. I can click the links and see the different applications. The application is going to pop in another tab. I will sit here and I'll read through it. This link, if you send it out to the public, won't open because they have to be logged in. Same with as they come down and they review the application and they're looking at a budget or the 990 or whatever, these links, they have to be logged in for them to activate and them to be able to click them and see them. So I would have this open, I'd be reviewing it, and then they can come back and forth to the other page and complete the rating form. This particular rating form sample is that they're going to do them one at a time, not the list with all the applications. We're going to have the application list at the top, and they're going to fill out the form right here, hit submit, and then come back and do the next one and keep going. So again, right now, I am logged into the site, but I can't edit the site. All I can do is do a form in a secured area, okay? So let's just kind of, oh, I've already done a few. So I'm going to log out as a volunteer. That's what you would do too. Your instructions to them, you click the login, here's your username and password, you're going to land on the page. We'll work together, make sure your page is set and ready to go. They'll do their applications, they'll log out. And now you come back afterwards and you log in as an administrator and you're able to see what they did. So let's go through some of this on the administrative side of things as what that looks like. And so I'm going to log in with the same level of permission roles that all of us use when we go log into the site. Always takes us to the screen. I will click manage and go to structure web. Or actually, let's go to the portal page. So here's what I was talking about the portal pages. Content, add content. do you see on your site, and sometimes they're called staff secured page or board secured page. Maybe all the secured pages are together, maybe they're separated up. If when you're on your website and you go to manage, add content, you don't see 3 secured areas, know that you can have them. You just need to request them. So what's cool about these pages is that they're very uniquely only going to work with people with permission to see them. As admins, we of course have permission to see them, but my volunteer group, which I just logged in as a volunteer, I land on the volunteer page. I couldn't go to the board page because I don't have that permission. Volunteers would only go to that page. So when I click on the word content and I look under here, I'll see that I had created a page and the page type was secured page volunteer, and I called it my volunteer secured page. So let's go edit that. Here we go. So at the top, I have set up, and I've seen this done in columns. That's what we saw in Oklahoma's with the links to the different applications, or the links could be within the body of the actual rating form. So this is sort of decision points for you on, how would this flow best? Are you wanting people just to fill them out one at a time? Do you want a whole set together? Do you break them into groups? So you have choices, and we're happy to talk through those choices with you to see what makes sense for you. So I'm going to click on each of the applications. So this is where you would actually come in as you're working on this and type good news application, right? Let's type in helps. Highlight the words, click the hyperlink, and I believe I still have that PDF open. So here's the PDF copy. Where was I here? Paste the PDF in. Important tip under advanced. Open a new window. Why? Because you want it to open in another tab so they can review the application and come back and fill out the rating form at the same time. I call it toggle, like toggle between tabs. So they're going to look at the application in one tab, and come back to the other tab, fill it out. So let's hit save. All right. And then underneath here, I have the rating form webinar added to my page. So my page, my portal page, which they automatically log into when they come out, looks like this. There you go. So they're coming here. They go, okay, I need to review this one now. I click good news application. Here it is. They can scroll through and read it, come back on the toggle, and do their scoring sheet. And again, the scoring sheet can be however you want it to be. So let's just do one real quick. I'll get all these emails. And good news was the program. They're asking for $10,000. And it's a 1, 2, or 3 based on the guide above. They're really good. So I'm going to give them all 3s. 3, 3. Excellent. And then you can let them add notes. This is all changeable. Ask whatever questions work for you. Actually, those other applications that I showed you, they weren't using these questions. They were using different questions. So this is where it's whatever works for you. When I click submit on this, it's going to bring me to a screen that's going to let me come back and do it again. So I can go back to the form. And then I can fill out the next one. So then I click the next link and then I do the next one. That's kind of how the process would work. Okay, now, rating forms are done. We finished all the rating forms. Now what do I do with it? Once again, I want the data. So I'm on the secured page right now. I am not on the web form page, but you may be aware that you can get to your results from here at the corner of your web form. So I could click here and go to results, or I could go back to that structure web forms to get to my list of web forms, including the rating sheet for my webinar. And there's 4 results here. So let's click on the number. I like to click on the number. I think it's easy. here you go. You'll see the ones that I recently did. Now, another thought that I would do with this potentially, if I'm setting it up for my team, is instead of having an open field for program name or an open field for agency, I might actually have a drop down. Like if you know what the program names are, you might have a drop down list for them to choose from. Because what you're wanting to do afterwards is you're wanting to do some kind of data sort. Let's do this right this time. So once again, as a reminder, you can click customize and you can customize these fields how they appear. Doing this just like we did the other one, I still have PDFs of them. That I'm a little less worried about, but I do have PDFs. They'll get a PDF copy of their submission. So if I take a look at that good news one that I just filled out when I scored them, here's the score, here's the ratings, this is the total from the form that I completed. I like having the PDFs of all the submissions. I think it's very handy. But let's just say this was just this huge list and you have all of these people here. You might not care about these individual scores. I only care about what the total scores are and requested amount, program name. Those are my most important things. I don't even necessarily care who the rater is. Not when I'm presenting it back to the team at the end. It's done. We come back as a group and we say, here's the results, check this out. The results are, let's download it. I'm going to do download. I won't do a date range this time, unnecessary anyway, but I will do download. I can pick fields. I am really going to be selective on these fields. Here are the fields I care about. I care about the total score, the amount requested, and the program name. That's it. That's all I care about. Maybe notes, probably should do notes. Let's add that. Okay. So now all I'm going to do is click download. I don't need to pick any of those other sorter type of things. That messed me up the last time since I'd done it in September. All right, it's going to come in as Excel. Let's open that up. It's going to be tiny again. I don't know why my Excel so small. Let's pull you over. Let's make you bigger. There we go. Much happier. There we go. So my total score number didn't come over. That is interesting. I would troubleshoot that, figure out why the number is not sitting in there. It should be. But then you would sort by the different programs and figure out what the average scores are. I'm really puzzled why that number didn't carry over. I apologize. I should have double checked that ahead of time. I do know it does do it because I've done this all many times, and we'll make sure when we work with you that any of those important numbers would carry over. Okay. Questions?
Oh, but it's quiet at the moment. I think everyone's just taking in all of the processing.
There we go. All right. Okay, so that's kind of a summation there on the whole allocations process and fixing that up with the secured login, etc. Last thing that we wanted to mention for you on what you're capable of in this whole scheme of having organizations log in, create accounts, do applications, allocations teams log in, create rating forms, do all that stuff. The next side of it is, hey, next year or reporting. So let's talk about reporting a second. Now that all your agencies or all your organizations have accounts with you that they've created, they can log back in and you can allow them to do, or you can have them do any kind of reports you need back. Not only are they going to come in next year and do their application again, but reporting is kind of a cool thing. So we have a stock quarterly report that we can give you. You can put in a ticket and ask for our quarterly report. The quarterly report, this one's actually kind of cool. I'll thank Lumber River United Way. I don't know if they're on the call or not, but we kind of borrowed it from them. We've modified it a bit, but it's very similar to what they have. So you pick your quarter, you say your agency. So check this out. For them, under education, they have very specific things they were measuring. So you could change this to be your own areas of measure. How many students successfully completed the program or graduated, etc. So they've got a whole bunch of questions related to education, a bunch of questions related to financial stability, a bunch of questions related to health. Then down at the bottom, they ask, how did you use the budget for this quarter? How much of it have you spent? Upload your receipts. And then they go for that demographic data. And the demographic data can be quite extensive. So they have 3 counties in the area. So we left this scenario. If I'm in county 1, these are zip codes. Fill in the numbers for that zip code. So it's easy to remove. Like if you're like, we only have 1 county, we'll move county 2 and 3, that's fine. But we figured we leave the structure here since it's already been built out. That way, if you have a need for a bunch of counties with a bunch of zip codes, we can do that. And it does math for you. So demographics is often a big thing that everyone's going for at the end. So I have 100 people in the zip code and 25 people in the zip code. Oh, great. And it will total it for you, etc. What is the demographics areas you serve? We have it by race, age, and gender. And then some summary. So again, this is a reporting structure that we've got built out that we can help you with. We can clone over your site. We'll fix the little error that popped up. And then this can be something that you can use as well. Or if you don't particularly care for this particular design and style, you can develop one that works for yourself. But what happens is your organizations, when they log back in, you have a link for them to come to this page and complete a report for you. And again, you can set that to pre-populate with the last time they filled it out so that it gets them a step ahead, or not do that. That's up to you. So there's a lot of options. We are loving the whole report and web form process that One Each has and that our web forms can do. And I hope what we're doing right now is having you think, wow, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. There's a lot you can do. Book meetings with your account managers. Have this discussion with us. Say, hey, I was wondering, or I was thinking. That's how all this stuff evolves. It evolves because our customers come back to us and say, I'm really wanting to build something that can do this. And we'll go, let's figure that out together. And then we build it. And that's just how that all happens. It's a very cool and often fun process. So we are coming to the end of this webinar. I think we're doing okay on time. Questions, I skipped one. Let's go to this. Here's our closing details. So all of the webinars are on our support site. Our support site, support.oneeach.com. You can get to it when you're logged in and click OE support, or you can go directly to support.oneeach.com. If you do /webinars, all of our past webinar recordings are there. So today, actually the secured pages webinar was a lot about the allocations type of page. So if you're interested more in that, I would recommend that webinar. Part 1 of this webinar series is out there. That goes into the whole setup on the initial application. Submit support tickets. You might, because of this call, go, hey, I want them to clone that rating form, or I want a clone of the quarterly report. If you submit them as tickets, we will have them cloned out for you. And then there's our meeting links. Our account managers are myself, Allison, James, Jordan, Christina, and Chrissy. And hopefully you know your account manager, get to know us well. We are here to help you. It's part of what you pay for annually with us. So book meetings with us, make sure you're using our resources. Usually our webinars are the 3rd Thursday of the month. However, March 3rd Thursday of the month falls during spring break and I'm on vacation. So we're going the 4th Thursday in March. And then we're back to the 3rd Thursday for April and May. Our one in March, we're going to go dig into the design of the website, how that can really, the importance of it, how it works. We'll talk a little bit about new designs that are coming up as well, and what's important for you in 2023 and your website design, your ADA, all of those little details that are going to be important for you in having a very good website. In April, we're going to do a basic one. the basics. You've been sitting there going, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't even breathe. Come to the basics. And it'll have a lot of cool tips. Even some of those veterans out there might suddenly find out, wow, I didn't know that. And then we'll jump into the advanced one. We'll do advanced layouts in May. So if you have any topic requests that you really would like for us to cover, please let us know. We'll add it into the list. We're going to continue to do these every month. We thank you so much for your attendance. You guys have been great. You're attending these regularly. I hope this has been helpful and interesting. And I'm sure I'll start to see meetings pop up because of it, because that always happens. And I'm going to start to wrap this up. We're going to let you have a few minutes back in your day. Ladies on the call with me, anybody have any closing comments, anything I missed, any questions come in?
No, just some thank yous.
Okay. All right.
Sounds like people are excited. So yeah, definitely connect with your account managers.
All right. Thank you all very much. And you have a great day. Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.